Have you ever finished a busy day and realized that you did 100 things, but none of them felt satisfying? You answered messages, checked the news, watched short videos, opened several tabs, and moved between tasks whenever the moment became quiet. Then, when you finally tried to read a book, go for a walk, or have a calm conversation, the experience felt strangely empty. You may have thought, I am losing my attention, or nothing interests me anymore. But the problem may not be a lack of interest. It may be that your mind has been trained to expect a reward before an experience has had time to become rewarding. This is the dopamine trap. The phrase is often used to describe a simple story. Too much screen time floods the brain with dopamine, and then ordinary life stops feeling good. That story is dramatic, but it is not a complete explanation. Dopamine is not a happiness meter, and your brain is not a cup that gets filled until it overflows. Dopamine is involved in learning, motivation, movement, attention, and the process of assigning importance to possible rewards. It helps the brain notice a cue, predict an outcome, and decide whether an action may be worth pursuing. When a notification appears, when a video begins, or when a game offers a new challenge, the important event is not only the pleasure at the end. The brain is also learning that the cue may lead somewhere interesting. That is why you can feel an urge to check something even when you already know it may be disappointing. You are not always chasing enjoyment. Sometimes you are chasing the possibility of enjoyment. That distinction gives us a more useful starting point. The question is not simply, how much dopamine am I getting? The better question is, what kind of reward pattern is my attention learning? A reward pattern can be fast or slow, predictable or uncertain, shallow or deep, active or passive. A short video offers a fast change with almost no waiting. A difficult book offers a slow reward that depends on patience and understanding. A conversation offers an uncertain reward that depends on another person. A creative project may offer no reward at the beginning and a strong sense of meaning later. These experiences are not competing on equal terms. They are asking different systems of attention to operate. Imagine a small restaurant where one customer is served immediately every few seconds, while another customer is told that a carefully prepared meal will arrive in 20 minutes. Even if the meal is better, the first customer may feel restless while waiting. The issue is not that the second meal has no value. The waiting system has been trained differently. Your attention can be trained in a similar way. When you move repeatedly between rapid rewards, you teach yourself that the next moment should change quickly. When nothing changes, the stillness can feel like a problem. This is the first new idea. Boredom is sometimes a prediction error. You expected a change, but the change did not arrive. The room is quiet, the page is still, and the task is asking you to stay. Your brain labels the gap as boredom, but boredom may be a message about expectation rather than a final judgment about the activity. Try this the next time a normal activity feels dull. Do not ask, is this interesting? Ask, what change was I expecting right now? Maybe you expected a message. Maybe you expected a new image, a quick insight, or an immediate feeling of progress. Naming the missing change helps you see the comparison taking place in the background. Once we understand reward patterns, we can see why the usual advice often fails. People say, just put your phone away, as if the phone were the entire problem. Sometimes putting it away helps, but it may leave you sitting in the same restless state, waiting for the old level of stimulation to return. You may remove the device without rebuilding the skill that the device was replacing. The deeper challenge is not only stopping an input, it is learning how to enter a slower activity. This brings us to the second new idea, the re-entry cost. Every time you interrupt an activity, you pay a small cost to rebuild the mental context. You have to remember what you were doing, what mattered, where you stopped, and what the next move is. If you switch often enough, the cost becomes invisible. You may think you are simply taking a quick break, but you are also creating a difficult return. Consider writing a report. You write 2 sentences, check a message, read a headline, and return to the report. The interruption may last 30 seconds, but the return can take several minutes. You have to reconstruct the sentence, recover the purpose, and overcome the small discomfort of beginning again. Do this 20 times and the work starts to feel harder than it really is. The same thing happens with reading. You close the book to check one alert. When you return, you remember the words, but lose the emotional and conceptual thread. The chapter now feels flat, so you search for another source of stimulation. You may conclude that the book is boring when the real problem is repeated re-entry. This is why a useful reset should not only reduce distractions, it should make returning easier. Before you stop an activity, leave yourself a doorway back in. Write 1 sentence about what you were thinking. Mark the exact next action. Leave the materials open in a clean, visible state. If you are reading, write 1 question that the next page might answer. If you are working on an idea, leave a rough unfinished sentence rather than a blank page. These small signals reduce the cost of returning. The takeaway is different from simply hiding the phone. Do not only remove the exit, build the entrance back into the activity. Now consider another part of the trap. Many high-stimulation activities are designed around variable rewards. You do not know exactly what the next swipe will bring. It may be ordinary, amusing, shocking, useful, or personally relevant. The uncertainty keeps the search alive. This does not mean every unpredictable reward is dangerous. Uncertainty is part of games, learning, discovery, conversation, and exploration. The problem appears when most of your free time is organized around searching for the next hit of novelty, with no natural stopping point. A book has chapters. A walk has a route. A meal has an end. A conversation has a rhythm. An endless feed has another item. The system does not need you to feel satisfied. It benefits when you keep checking whether satisfaction might appear next. This gives us the third new idea, the open loop. An open loop is an experience without a clear point of completion. It keeps your attention leaning forward. You refresh the inbox because a new message may arrive. You check the feed because the next item may be better. You search for another video because the current one did not fully satisfy you. The mind remains occupied, but not necessarily nourished. Open loops create a particular kind of fatigue. You have consumed a lot of information, but you have completed very little. You have many small emotional reactions, but no clear sense of arrival. You may be tired because your attention has been repeatedly invited to begin again. Notice the difference between a rewarding activity and an open loop. After cooking a meal, you can point to what you made. After finishing a chapter, you can name an idea you understood. After walking for 30 minutes, you know the route is complete. After an hour of random scrolling, the stopping point is usually external. The battery is low. Someone interrupts you, or guilt becomes stronger than curiosity. A practical experiment is to give your next period of entertainment an ending before you start. Choose one film instead of an endless feed. Choose 3 songs instead of a constant stream. Choose one article and write 1 sentence about it. Choose a game with a defined round. The purpose is not to make leisure productive. The purpose is to let the mind experience completion again. Completion is a kind of reward that endless novelty often removes. There is also a hidden issue with the word boredom. We use it to describe several different experiences. Sometimes boredom means low stimulation. Sometimes it means low meaning. Sometimes it means high effort with no visible progress. Sometimes it means emotional avoidance. If you treat all 4 as the same problem, you will choose the wrong solution. If an activity is low stimulation but meaningful, you may need patience. If it is high effort and unclear, you may need a smaller next step. If it is low meaning, you may need to choose something else. If it is emotional avoidance, more stimulation may only delay the feeling. This gives us the 4th new idea. Diagnose the type of boredom before trying to fix it. Ask for questions. Is the activity too quiet for my current expectations? Is the next step unclear? Is there no visible sign of progress? Or am I using stimulation to avoid a feeling I do not want to meet? Imagine sitting down to study. The first possibility is that the material is quiet compared with your recent media. The second is that the chapter is too difficult and you do not know what to look for. The third is that you have studied for 30 minutes but cannot see what you remember. The fourth is that the exam reminds you of fear, shame, or uncertainty. Putting on another video may only treat the surface. Each cause needs a different response. For low stimulation, use a transition period. Give yourself 5 minutes without asking the activity to entertain you. For an unclear task, define the question you are trying to answer. For invisible progress, create a small record of what you understood. For emotional avoidance, name the feeling before deciding whether to continue. This is more precise than calling everything a dopamine problem. It also returns some dignity to the experience. You are not broken. You are receiving a vague signal and learning how to interpret it. Let us look at the role of novelty. Novelty is useful. It helps you explore, learn, and notice opportunities. The goal is not to remove novelty from life. The goal is to stop spending all your novelty at the beginning of every activity. If you begin the morning with intense entertainment, the ordinary parts of the day may feel underpowered. If you reserve some novelty for the activity itself, you can use curiosity as fuel. This leads to a 5th idea, novelty budgeting. Think of novelty as a limited attention resource during a day. You do not need to count every video or create a perfect schedule. Simply notice when you are spending your most stimulating inputs. If you spend them all before work, study, exercise, or creative time, those slower activities must compete from a weaker position. Try arranging your day in 3 speeds. Begin with a quiet or purposeful activity before the first major novelty burst. Put demanding work into a protected middle period. Then choose entertainment deliberately rather than letting it fill every empty space. This is not a moral ranking. Fast rewards are not evil, and slow rewards are not automatically noble. It is a question of sequence. The same dessert tastes different before dinner and after dinner. The same video affects attention differently when it is one planned activity and when it is the first of 200 unpredictable items. Sequence changes the comparison point. You can also create a bridge between high stimulation and low stimulation. Going directly from fast video to deep reading may feel like stepping from a bright room into darkness. Give your attention a middle step. Wash a cup, stretch, walk to the window, or write down the last thing you watched. The bridge is not a punishment. It is a change of speed. The aim is to help attention decelerate before asking it to concentrate. This is especially useful at night. If you move from rapid content directly into bed, your body may be tired while your attention is still searching. You may lie down and feel bored, restless, or unable to sleep. A low stimulation bridge can make the transition less abrupt. Now let us discuss motivation. Many people wait to feel interested before they begin. That makes sense when motivation is treated as a signal of readiness. But interest often appears after contact, not before it. A musician may not feel inspired before touching the instrument. A writer may not feel curious before reading the first line of research. A person may not feel ready for a walk before putting on shoes. The first minutes are often a negotiation between prediction and reality. If the predicted reward is low, the brain argues for an easier option. The answer is not always to force yourself harder. It can be to make the first contact more informative. Instead of saying, "I will read for an hour," ask one concrete question and read until you find one useful answer. Instead of saying, "I will exercise," put on the shoes and complete one warm-up. Instead of saying, "I will create something," make one deliberately bad version. The point is not to finish. It is to give the brain evidence that the activity contains movement, information, or meaning. This differs from the repeated advice to start small because the focus is not only on effort, it is on feedback. A small start should tell you something. Did the activity become easier after contact? Did the problem become clearer? Did your mood change? Did the first step reveal that the task was not what you expected? Good experiments collect information rather than demanding a perfect result. You can create a personal boredom map. For 1 week, record the moment when an activity begins to feel flat. Write down what came before it, what you expected, what you did next, and whether the switch actually helped. You may discover that boredom appears after poor sleep, after social comparison, after a large meal, or after a long block of rapid content. You may discover that some activities feel boring only when they are unstructured. You may discover that the urge to switch is strongest at the first sign of uncertainty. The map turns a general complaint into a pattern. Once the pattern is visible, you can change the sequence rather than attacking your character. There is one more layer worth noticing: the difference between stimulation and nourishment. Stimulation changes your state. Nourishment supports your life. Some experiences do both, but not all of them do. A notification can stimulate you without helping you. A difficult conversation can nourish you while feeling uncomfortable. A workout can be unpleasant at the beginning and beneficial afterward. A quiet afternoon can seem empty until it gives your thoughts enough room to connect. If you judge every experience by how exciting it feels in the first 30 seconds, you will repeatedly choose stimulation over nourishment. This does not mean you should distrust pleasure. It means you should ask a second question after pleasure. What did this leave behind? Did it leave energy, understanding, connection, confidence, or only the desire for another change? This question helps you evaluate an experience by its after effect, not just its peak. Let us bring the ideas together. The dopamine trap is not one chemical causing one problem. It is a relationship between cues, predictions, reward timing, switching, open loops, sequence, and meaning. Fast and uncertain rewards can teach attention to expect frequent change. Frequent switching increases the cost of returning. Open loops make completion feel rare. When slower activities begin, the mind predicts that they will be unrewarding, so boredom arrives early. Then the person switches, receives relief or novelty, and strengthens the prediction. The loop becomes familiar. To interrupt it, use 5 questions. What reward pattern am I training? What is the cost of returning after I switch? Is this activity complete or an open loop? What type of boredom am I experiencing? And what will this experience leave behind after the stimulation ends? You do not need to answer all 5 every time. Choose one question that fits the moment. If you are scrolling without satisfaction, ask whether you are searching inside an open loop. If reading feels impossible, ask what you were doing immediately before it. If work feels dull, ask whether the next step is clear and whether progress is visible. If you feel restless at night, ask whether your attention has had a bridge between fast input and rest. If an exciting activity leaves you empty, ask whether it gave you nourishment or only another reason to continue. Try one 7-day experiment. Choose one slower activity that matters to you. Before it begins, create a 5-minute bridge with no rapid input. Define one question or one visible outcome. During the activity, keep a re-entry note so returning is easy. Give the session a clear ending. Afterward, record not whether you felt amazing, but whether the experience changed after you stayed and what it left behind. This experiment is different from a dramatic detox because it does not treat pleasure as the enemy. It trains flexibility. You are practicing the ability to move from fast reward to slow reward, from anticipation to contact, from open loops to completion, from stimulation to nourishment, and from automatic switching to deliberate choice. The goal is not to become interested in everything. Some activities really are boring, and some are not worth your time. The goal is to know the difference between an activity that lacks meaning and an activity that has been judged too quickly by a restless attention system. You may not control the first feeling of boredom, but you can investigate it before obeying it. You may not remove every open loop, but you can give some experiences a natural ending. You may not make every reward immediate, but you can create conditions in which slower rewards have a chance to appear. You may not control every cue, but you can change the sequence around the cue. So what is the dopamine trap? It is the learned expectation that every moment should quickly become more interesting, more novel, or more emotionally intense. When that expectation meets an ordinary activity, the activity may feel defective even when it is valuable. The way out is not to fear dopamine or to punish yourself for enjoying screens. It is to rebuild a wider range of reward experiences. Let some activities be quiet. Let some rewards be delayed. Let some experiences end. Let attention return without having to start from zero. Let yourself notice what remains after the excitement has passed. The mind is not asking only for pleasure. It is learning what deserves pursuit. Give it better evidence. If this episode helped you notice a pattern, write down the cue, the reward you expected, the moment you switched, the cost of returning, and one slower reward you want to make easier. Keep it simple and observe the result for 1 week. Curiosity is where change begins. This is Paper Guy. Keep learning, keep noticing, and take care of your mind as part of your life not as something separate from it. If this episode helped you, subscribe and like the video for more practical ideas visually explained.